Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jummah Mubarak to everyone. Inshallah, we'll have few announcements before the prayer. First of all, let's remember all of our Muslim brothers and sisters across the globe. May Allah give them health, happiness and prosperity. Allahumma ameen. A special dua for our brother and sister in Gaza. As you know, they are suffering. May Allah alleviate their suffering and give them a victory soon, inshallah. Allahumma ameen. In light of this announcement, we're also going to have a protest here in Rancho Cucamonga today at 5 p.m. here in Rancho Cucamonga. Protest location is Day Creek and Foothill. Again, the location is Day Creek and Foothill. Please show up for that protest to support our brothers and sisters in Gaza. Brother Kashif Wahab, a young brother, passed away in his sleep last Saturday. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. Brother Niyaz Ahmed in Bangladesh passed away. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. May Allah forgive these brothers' shortcomings and grant them Jannatul Firdaus. Allahumma ameen. Brother Sultan Haq is in the hospital. May Allah give him a speedy recovery and Shifa Kulli. Allahumma ameen. Let's continue to pray for our sister Sahra Basi. We've been praying for her. May Allah give her complete shifa soon, inshallah. Starting tomorrow, Fajr Iqama will be at 4:45 a.m. Again, starting tomorrow, Fajr Iqama will be at 4:45 a.m. Islamic Community Center of Redland will host 9th Sira Council this Saturday, May 25th. Please plan to attend. Please turn off your cell phones and gadgets and pay full attention to the khutbah. And finally, our khatib today is Brother Thomas Alameddine. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. صدق الله العظيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Every single person in this entire world, whoever came, whoever is here, and whoever will come, is seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether they know it or not. Every single person who wants love in this life is in actuality seeking al-wadud, the most loving. Any person who wants peace, they actually want a fragment, something, anything from as-salam. And any person who wants truth, they're really looking for al-haq subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the same goes with happiness. People seek happiness, but none of Allah Ta'ala's names are the most happy. However, we know that Allah Ta'ala, true sa'ada, true happiness is with Him in the hereafter. True happiness is when someone passes this test. True happiness is when they enter into Jannah and then there is no more conflict of right and wrong or decisions to make or being under this examination that we call the dunya. Every single one of us is heading back to Allah Ta'ala whether we know it or not. Allah Ta'ala, He says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhal insan, innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadahan famulaqih. That, O humanity, you are toiling towards your Lord with great effort. The question is, in what state are we going to meet Him? We're like those fish, the salmon, that are born inside of a river and they spend the first part of their life swimming downstream, going with the flow. And then they enter into the ocean, they spend some time there, and then they make their way back upstream against the current until they reach the same exact river, the same exact tributary they were born in, and they finish their life cycle there. Or species of sea turtles. The mother sea turtles, they lay their eggs on a particular beach, and they hatch, and they venture out into the ocean. And after so much time, eventually before they die, they spend the rest of their life going back to that same beach that they were born on, and they die there. All of us seek to return to our source with a capital S, whether we know it or not. And what this deen teaches us is, rather than going back to Allah Ta'ala in a meandering way with our eyes closed, that Allah Ta'ala gave us siratul mustaqim. He gave us a straight path. He told us the truth so we can open our eyes and make our way back to Him. Our deen teaches us that although it's easy to go with the flow in life, that to achieve true happiness, we have to swim upstream. We have to go against the nafs. We have to go against the dunya in order to reach Allah Ta'ala and what's actual true perpetual sa'ada, true perpetual happiness. And to understand this, we have to understand three things. Number one is the problem with going blindly through life seeking happiness. The second is to understand the solution that our deen gives us. And the third is a warning that all of us really need to hear because we fall into a stuck place sometimes. So first, the problem. What's the problem with seeking happiness? This is something we have in our founding documents in this country. We say the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. This is something all of us do instinctively. When a baby's born, it doesn't just lay on a hospital bed. It cries out for its mother's touch, for food, for nourishment, for all of these things. We go through life, we go through childhood, and we learn that pleasure feels good and pain, it hurts. Our biology helps us with this. So you eat something sweet and your brain releases dopamine. And you get hurt, you get a scrape or a bruise, or you feel a healthy dose of shame, or maybe not such a healthy dose of shame. And you realize this is bad. But you make it through childhood, and we go throughout life seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. What could be the problem with that? Except that we live in a time where people, they take this understanding and they don't just use it to help other people achieve these things, to live a comfortable, happy life. They use it to take money from you. So like for instance, it's summertime coming. I'm a teacher. And one of the things that all my students are going to do as soon as they get out of school is they're going to fire up their video game systems. And they're going to play that. And they're going to feel so much joy and happiness. And in the beginning of summer, some of these young men are going to stay up until 3 a.m. And they're going to feel so good. They're not going to think about sleep. They're not going to think about anything else. But then you fast forward to the end of summer. You take that same young man, and it's no longer 3 in the morning. It's 3 in the afternoon. He has the same game that he's been playing, and he feels horrible. Doesn't like it anymore. At the same time, he says, It doesn't make me feel good, but I can't stop playing it. I don't know what else to do. And then, if you think that's silly, some of the older folks, then you just look at our phones. Sometimes people, they're sitting in bed, and then they're looking at their phone, and they think, I saw something earlier today that was interesting, but they just keep on scrolling and scrolling, and they know I have to get to sleep, but I can't. And I'm looking at this thing, and it doesn't even make me feel good, but I keep on doing it, and I don't know why. We even have a name for it. We call it doom scrolling. Sometimes people call it revenge procrastination. Just doing these things that don't make us happy, but we keep on doing it. But it shouldn't come as a surprise to us because you're not some bad luck accident like that just happened to you, like that's just some problem that you have, because that's what these things are designed to do. They're designed to make you want more but never give you enough. As a matter of fact, the social media companies and some of these people, they make these mobile games and things. Who do they consult? How to design their programs. They consult people from Las Vegas who make their entire living off of this kind of predatory scheme to take money from people. When I was a young man, I remember one of the most religious brothers I knew. He told me that before he became religious, he went to Las Vegas. And astaghfirullah, he spent all of the money he had when he was there. He lost everything. But that wasn't enough. He drove all the way back to Southern California. He took everything he had from the bank, upwards of $100,000. He went back and he lost all of his and his wife's savings. A'udhu billah. Then he turned his life around and he became an amazing person, subhanAllah. But that's their business model. I ask the students sometimes, I ask them, how many of you know people who've spent an unreasonable amount of money on these in-game purchases? And all the kids, they smile sheepishly. They look at each other and then they start raising their hands and they all start laughing because 9 out of 10 kids, they know somebody who did that. Because that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to keep your eyes glued on the screen because you're the product that they're selling to the advertisers. Take another example. Take the food that we eat. I mean, that's just something that we do for fun, entertainment, the games. Take the food that we eat. That you have people, we have an obesity crisis, almost 40% of this country, over 40% in fact, we're facing obesity. Diabetes on the rise, pre-diabetes. All these people, it's unnatural the numbers that public health officials are seeing, how many people have this. So then we say, what about personal responsibility? Don't people have to exercise personal responsibility? And anybody could agree to that. But what's interesting is if you look in English publications and databases, they track everything that was published for decades. And you see, where is the first instance that this phrase, personal responsibility, came from? Who were the first people to use this phrase? It comes from the tobacco industry. Because in the 1960s and 1970s, they realized that their product was killing people. And as more and more people understood this, they said, well, we just want people to make their own choice. We want them to exercise personal responsibility. And if you look at the advertisements in the past, if you just take a minute and look at some of the ads that they used to have for tobacco products, it's ridiculous. But then the more you think about it, it's not so ridiculous because the same advertisements that they had for cigarettes, it's the same type of ads that our children see for food products. And that shouldn't surprise you because in the 1980s and 1990s and the 2000s, the big tobacco companies, they purchased all the food companies because they need to diversify their investments. So they purchased Kraft and they purchased all these other things. And they made these advertisements and they taught kids how to nag their parents. They even called those commercials that they made, they said it was good if it had the nag factor. It could show the kids how to go to their mom and dad and put that little twangy whine in their voice and get their parents to buy them stuff. And now we have a health crisis because somebody makes a buck off of it. But the whole point is that they've hijacked your biology. They hijack your dopamine release to give you more and more, enough so that you want more, but never enough so that you're satisfied. Enough sugar and salt and fat so that you want to take another bite, but never enough so you can say, never enough nutrition so you can say, I've had enough. And we go through life destroying ourselves when we go blindly. What's the point in this? The point is that you have to be cautious in seeking happiness. Because if you go with the flow, you get swept away. Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, it comes in a hadith that he said, whoever chases after the dunya, it's like somebody drinking salt water. The more you drink, the more thirsty you get until it kills you. And unfortunately, it's like this with the products that we use. It's designed to be that way. The author of Dopamine Nation, a doctor at Stanford University, she said that there's young men and they go to college and they say, I can't find my passion in life. I can't find what I'm supposed to do. All I do is I just play video games all day. And she tells them, you won't be able to find your passion because you're stuck on this dopamine machine, just constantly giving it to you. Nothing else is going to do that for you because nothing else in life, that's not real. It doesn't reflect something that actually happens to you in life, that you get those kind of hits like that. So then what's the solution? And our deen, it gives us a solution that's so simple and yet so obvious. It seems superficial, but it's deep the more you think about it. And what is that? That we have to prefer the akhirah over the dunya. Sounds easy. Prefer the next life over this life. But what does it mean? Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi rahimahullah is a great scholar from India. He gives an example. He says, imagine you have a friend, he comes to you, and your friend says, I've been offered 2 houses, I can only take one. One house, it's ramshackled, it's falling apart. But I get to move into it immediately today. I get to keep it for 30 days, and then after 30 days, it's taken from me. The other option is I get to move into my house, the house of my dreams, but I can't go into it now. I have to wait 30 days before I can enter into it and take it. But after that period, I get it permanently. So a ramshackled house for 30 days is taken from you, or the house of your dreams after 30 days and you get to keep it forever. What advice would you give your friend? And it's pretty obvious. All of us would tell our friend to wait 30 days. But how many of us, we don't follow our own advice that we would give to our friends when we prefer what we have here and now and we sacrifice the akhirah for that? Some of us, we might think that's too simplistic. It's too simplistic for the complicated challenges that we face. But if you think about that example, and you're not even guaranteed to keep this dunya for the next 30 days. We just heard about people who passed away, a young man passing away in his sleep. No one even knows if they're going to make it to breakfast tomorrow. It makes no rational sense for someone to choose this dunya at the expense of the akhirah. But how do we apply that to all the examples that we just mentioned about food and entertaining ourselves to death and all the problems that we face? Sheikh Hakim al-Ummah, he gives another example. And this time he tells about 2 friends. One friend's rich and the other friend's poor. And that rich friend, one day he comes to his poor friend and he tells him, he says, I have so many problems in my life. I'm so stressed out. Food, it doesn't even taste good to me. And the poor friend, he looks at him and he says, you should come to my house. Because in my house, we eat the best kind of food. And the rich friend, he gets intrigued by this, but he's also skeptical. Because he says, I'm rich, this man's poor, how could he have better food than I do? But he accepts the invitation because he wants to try some of that good food. So he goes to his friend's house and he goes hungry. And when he arrives there, the poor friend, the poor host, he says, the food's not ready yet, so let's sit and talk. And he talks and he talks and he talks. And then the rich man, he's getting hungry. He says, brother, is the food ready yet? He tells him, let me go check. He looks, it's not ready yet. So he keeps on talking, makes long conversation. The man's getting extremely hungry. Time passes, he says, brother, is there anything in the house for me to eat? He says, we have the leftovers from yesterday. It's just some vegetable curry and some old bread. But you don't want that, because the fresh food is more delicious, it tastes better. And he keeps on talking until the man is going crazy with hunger. He says, brother, please give me anything. I need to eat something. So then he says, okay, let's bring out the leftovers and you can have this, but don't eat too much because the fresh food's coming out. They said that that rich man, he started eating like a wild person. Every single bite he said, subhanallah, 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 until he filled himself up. And the poor man, when he saw that, he said, wait, brother, the good food, it's ready. Here, take a bite of it. He says, I don't need anything else. He says, but this food is so much more delicious. And the rich man said, nothing is better than the food that I just had. It can't be. It was wonderful. And then the poor man turned to me and said, didn't I tell you that we eat better food than you? Because in this house, we eat when we're hungry. In your house, every time you have an inkling for food, you nibble on this or on that. But you have to slow down. And isn't that what happened to us in Ramadan? Now it's so long ago. It's a memory for us now. But we all say we were happy in Ramadan. Maybe one day you were waiting for iftar and the food wasn't ready. All you had were dates and water. But that was the best food that you had experienced in your moment in your life at that time. It tasted so good because you were hungry. And in Ramadan, you had barakah in your time, even though you're busy coming to the masjid, because you didn't spend the whole night eating. You ate a little bit so you could make it to Isha on time so you could join the Taraweeh. And when you went to bed after Taraweeh, you didn't waste time on your phone because you know you have to get to sleep so you can wake up for Fajr because you can't miss that. Everything was structured. In other words, you spent your entire life in Ramadan seeking the akhirah and preferring the akhirah over the dunya. This is what it means. I'll give you another example. How this makes us happy. How just practicing the deen makes us happy. Happiness is a whole field of research on its own. If any people who attend Harvard or Ivy League schools like Princeton or Yale, they have an entire course on happiness. As a matter of fact, at Yale University, the happiness course is the most sought after course amongst the undergraduates. And what do they teach you in that course? They teach you that seeking happiness, it's a paradox. Because people who chase after happiness, they chase it away. They say that people who value their own sense of happiness are less likely to be happy. Why? Because people who value their own happiness, when they experience a moment of joy, they're too busy thinking, how can I make this into a better moment of joy? They don't savor it. Second reason why people who value their own happiness are less happy, because they don't realize that a person's overall sense of contentment, it depends more on the frequency of joyful incidences than the intensity of them. So maybe summer vacation for us is going to go by a week or 2 weeks, or for the students it's longer. And they have a good time. They feel decently good. But then they think, maybe it would be better if I had traveled to such and such a place for vacation and I had this intensively happy moment. But that's not how it works. The third reason why such people are not happy is because they sacrifice meaning and purpose for their temporary happiness. In other words, happiness, it comes and it goes, it waxes and it wanes. But a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, it stays with a person. So for example, you can have two types of job seekers. One person is seeking a job and they say the benefits and the location and the nature of the work is going to make me happy. Another type of person is looking for a job where they can put all of their effort into it. They're looking for a career, they're looking for a vocation, they're looking for a calling for which they can give every drop of their blood, sweat, and tears. Who's more happy? The research shows that that person who wants to give it their all, they're more happy. So how does our deen help us with this? Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi rahimahullah, he said that Islam can be summarized into two things. Number one is worshiping the Creator, and the second thing is serving creation. You see these brave students putting it all on the line at their campus encampments. These people are putting it all down, they're sacrificing everything, and they have a sense of happiness in doing it because they know it's the right thing. You see the people in Gaza sacrificing their lives, standing up for the people, their families, and all of our holy sites. They have a greater sense of happiness than people who, they seek only their own fulfillment. May Allah Ta'ala give them victory. People who seek their own fulfillment, they end up less happy than others. It's basically what Sayyidina Rasulullah told us, that when the servant is assisting his brother, Allah Ta'ala is in the assistance of that servant. This is the Siratul Mustaqim that we use to travel back to Allah Ta'ala, seeking that true happiness in the hereafter. And then the third part is the warning, that sometimes we can take this message of religion and we use it in the wrong way against ourselves. We say, if I want to be happy, I just need to serve everybody else. I just need to be in the masjid and taking care of everyone else, and we forget to take care of ourselves. Sometimes we have the right outlook and we're doing the right things, but we're still not happy. And we use religion sometimes to spiritually bypass things in our lives that we have to deal with. We said that when you're coming up in childhood, you end up with some scrapes and some bruises and some broken bones, but maybe also things that are more internal. And a person has to take care of those things. A person has to remember that the deen is balanced, because Sayyidina Rasulullah, he said that your nafs has a right over you. You have the right, and your nafs has that right, you have to give it nutritious, wholesome food that actually nourishes you. You have to give yourself restful sleep so that you're awake in every sense of the word during the day. And if you're going through some kind of pain, if you're going through some kind of trauma, because living in this world can be traumatic, it's the dunya. And something else is just a fact of life. We all love our parents. We all love our parents. May Allah Ta'ala forgive them and have mercy on them. But none of our parents were perfect, and none of us are perfect. And if we're going through life and all of its difficulties, we need to ask ourselves, what are we passing on to our children? Because Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said that that person who starts a good sunnah, he gets the reward of doing that and all the people who follow him. But also that person who starts a bad sunnah, that person gets the recompense, the consequence of that sunnah and all the people who follow him. We have to ask ourselves, what kind of way are we modeling for our children to seek happiness? Are we modeling for our children that we eat ourselves to death and we entertain ourselves to death and we carry around pain that we don't ever deal with? Or do we show them that there's resources in the community? Do we show them that Allah Ta'ala, He didn't just send books down and say, now you do it. He sent us prophets. You and I, we're not like fish just going up the river on our own. We're people in a community, and when somebody falls behind, we take them by the hand and we help them with us. This is what it means. So we seek out those services if we need them in our community. We seek out those services so that we break those chains of bad traditions, intergenerational trauma, so we can show our children how to seek happiness in a healthy way. We open their eyes to make them realize that we're all seeking Allah Ta'ala. Al-Wadud, the most loving. As-Salam, the source of all peace. Al-Haq, truth, subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we're all really after. And the deen shows us how to go back to Him in a straight path. May Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات وألف بين قلوبهم وأصلح ذات بينهم وانصرهم على عدوك وعلى عدوهم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا وأزواجه وذريته. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر وأصدقهم حياء عثمان وأقضاهم علي وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة والحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة وحمزة أسد الله وأسد رسولي. اللهم اغفر للعباس وولده مغفرة ظاهرة باطنة لا تغادر ذنبا. الله في أصحابي لا تتخذوهم غرضا من بعدي فمن أحبهم فبحبي أحبهم ومن أبغضهم فببغضي أبغضهم وخير أمتي قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم. عباد الله رحمكم الله. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Please straighten out the rows, fill in all the gaps. Make sure we move in as much as we can so people in the back can enter. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.